welcome to my keto journey. Now I know it's been a minute since I've been on here. I've had some back surgery done and kind of been out of it for a while. But starting Monday, tomorrow, I am going to be starting a diet that I created and used before, and it works beautifully. And I wanted to go ahead and give you a jump start on this so that I can show you what I'll be eating for this week. And also, if you're interested in joining me, you can get the ingredients and make it to join with me on Monday. So it'll be 5 days, and it's very healthy. Not what most people think about keto. Most people think you can't eat a lot of vegetables on keto. And you know, you can eat some, but I have a whole array of vegetables here. We're going to be making a vegetable beef soup, and it is really yummy, and it is very low carb and very high good fat and protein. So I'm going to put you down here and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you what's going to go in here first. I'm going to move my pot out of the way. So we're going to be using some cabbage. I don't know that you can see this back here. So I have a head of a medium cabbage. I have 3 stalks of celery with leaves and everything, because you get a lot of flavor out of the celery leaves. We're going to be using, of course, some ground hamburger. And we're going to be using 1 small onion plus a tablespoon of minced onion. We're going to be using 1 can of green beans, and that's 1 can of green beans that you have rinsed. Now, a lot of people put potatoes in their vegetable soups, and you know, on keto we can't have potatoes. And I used radishes. Now, if you think you don't like radishes, give this a try anyway. Because when they're cooked with all the flavor, they tend to take on that beefy flavor. They taste like potatoes, honestly. And like I said, we're going to use a little chopped onion. We're going to use 1 can of diced tomatoes. And then we're going to be using some beef stock or broth. So I think that's about everything. Oh yeah, and a couple of tablespoons of butter. So now we're going to put our pot on the stove. Get that warmed up, and I'm just going to melt some butter down in there. And I have about 2.5 tablespoons of butter. So that is what we're going to use. Okay, so the butter's about melted. And what we're going to put in first, we're going to put in some of the harder vegetables to soften up first. So we're going to put in our celery. Now you can also put mushrooms in this. And I think I have a thing of canned mushrooms that I use like when I make my fake spaghetti. But I don't think I'm going to be putting it in here this time. And I'm going to put my onions in there. And just give them a good stir. We don't want these to brown. We just want them to soften up in the butter. Okay, and then I'm going to add my radishes in, because they do take a little longer to cook. Now your cabbage, it wilts in, and it really doesn't take long to cook it. So I'm just going to let these soften up for a few minutes, and then we'll add the rest of our stuff. Okay, so I've let this cook about 5 minutes on medium high. So now I am going to turn down to about medium, and we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So I forgot to mention, I'm going to be adding a little bit of minced garlic. I'm going to be adding about 1/2 tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. Okay, give that a stir. I don't add it in right away because I don't want my garlic to burn. When you burn garlic, you just have to throw everything away and start all over, because it leaves a real bitter taste. Oh, but I wish you could smell this. It smells so good. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding in a few minced onions, because I really had a medium onion in it last time, but I only had a small one. So that's what I used. So I used about a tablespoon of minced onions. Now, if you're thinking this has a lot of carbs, it really doesn't, because remember, you're making a big pot of soup. This is going to last me for 5 days. Okay, so now I'm going to be adding in my can of diced tomatoes. And I'm going to rinse that can out with some beef broth in a minute. Going to add that in there. Ooh, that looks so good. And it smells yummy. Okay. So then we're going to add the whole quart of beef broth. I'm just going to rinse my tomato can out with a little bit of it. And then pour the rest of it in there. Okay. So we're going to stir that up. Then we're going to add in the green beans. See, it's just packed full of good vegetables, or full of vitamins and all those things that you really need. Now we're going to add a pound of hamburger. Now, I did not use ultra lean hamburger. I used 75-25, something like that. And all I did was take a slotted spoon and just dip it out of the pan. I didn't really fully drain it or anything. So to that, we're going to add 1 can of water. Okay. And then we're going to add a little S&P, salt and pepper. Add some pepper in there. Remember, this is making a whole big pot full. And then we're going to add a little salt. And stir that up. Now I'm going to bring that back to a good rolling simmer. And then we'll be adding our cabbage in. Okay, so we're up to a good simmer. Now I'm going to start putting the cabbage in. A little bit at a time. And it will just sort of disintegrate in there. Stir it around. Now your cabbage is going to cook down a good bit, so if you think you got too much, you don't. And it will lose some water from it too. So, but if you think it's too thick, add a little more broth to it. Okay. Now all I'm going to do is bring this to a low boil. Then I'm going to cover it and let it simmer for about 45 minutes to an hour. Now it just depends on how you want your veggies. I like my veggies soft. If you like a little crunch left in your veggies, by all means, shorten the time. Everything basically is done except for the cabbage. And I do advise cooking it some though. Alright, so I'm just going to bring this to a low boil, and then I'm going to turn it down on medium-low and let it simmer, like I said, for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then when it gets done, we'll check it out.